Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 39th episode of the Manor Podcast. I'm your co-host, Roger Bodee, joined as always with my best friend and other co-host, Michael Hamilton. Michael, will you be my Valentine?
Oh, yeah.
That's actually the card my wife got me, but, I think she'll be cool if I regift it,
Okay.
probably. That's cool. That's something you can do, right? I can just cross out her name at the bottom and put Roger and then cross out my name and put Michael. And it's basically all the same sentiment, right?
Mm-hmm. So I gave Casey, or I told Casey I made her a card today, and she was like, "Ooh," or "Oh," or something, and I thought she said no, and I'm like, I guess I can cross your name off and try to repurpose it. But she was like, "Oh, not no," and it was just a silly interaction.
Is Christmas our Valentine's Day then? Because you make me nice homemade cards for Christmas. I mean, like, it's kind of the same gift. If you're getting your wife these kinds of things, and now you're getting me these kinds of things, I just feel like, this is some pretty serious stuff here.
I guess Christmas could be our Valentine's Day.
Hell yeah, dude. Okay, well, now that we've established our relationship at a new level, what would you like to discuss on the podcast this week?
So for this week, what we're talking about tournament preparation, everything from choosing a deck, playtesting for the event, putting the deck together and playing the tournament, or being ready to play the tournament, to everything that's like not directly related to the game but still important, like taking care of yourself physically, making travel plans, flights, driving, hotel, whatever is involved. So yeah.
Okay. So I'm looking at the notes here and I see step number 1, contact your financial advisor to already plan your prize winnings. So how do you normally, do you set aside the money into a specific fund ahead of time? Do you kind of plan for it? Do you take a certain portion out in advance from taxes? Tell us about how you like manage your winnings ahead of time.
You don't manage your winnings ahead of time. I didn't add it to the.
I don't. No, I don't. You're right. You do.
I think I didn't add it to the notes, but managing expectations is also important. There are a bazillion people going to the tournament, even if you.
And one of them is going to be Michael Hamilton. So plan on what to do with second place money at best.
No matter how good you are, it's never like the expectation to win the 400 plus person or any tournament, really, I guess, regardless of how many people are there. Because, like, at the end of the day, it's a card game. You're going to have bad matchups. A lot of things have to go your way to win a tournament. And so you shouldn't have too high of expectations.
Okay, fair enough. I had to calm down my rhetoric after I realized if Bolton was tier 1, I would have won calling Indianapolis, but he wasn't yet. So
how many Briars did you play against over the weekend?
3 day 1, and then I didn't play against any day 2.
Okay.
Because I just played against 3 5s. So I mean, like, I actually probably would have like crushed the meta.
Yeah, if you could get through the day 1 where you go 4-3 losing to 3 Briars.
Yeah, because I only played against Icelander once, and that was our only like horrendous matchup for Bolton. So I probably should have just stuck with Bolton, but hindsight 2020.
Yeah. Oh, I believe the Dromai Tomo tied you pretty early in your game against Dromai, and that would have been bad news.
You can still win games after Tomotai. There are slogs, but you can still win.
Okay.
Okay, but so now we've set our expectations. What else should we be expecting about the tournament?
So I guess there's a lot of things to expect. I don't know exactly what you're
Maybe
asking.
some kind of metagame, some kind of like what heroes will be represented, some kind of expectations for the decks you'll play across the weekend.
Yeah, see, you were trying to be subtle and get me to pick up on what you were putting down, but it just went way over my head. But
Yeah,
anyway,
it's okay.
So metagaming for a tournament is pretty important. If you have no idea what decks are going to show up, how are you going to know what deck to play? What cards to put in your sideboard? What cards to bring? Even if you're locked on playing a specific hero, knowing what decks to expect should alter your deck build at least a little bit. So, I guess what I generally do to kind of guess or predict the metagame is I follow a lot of like Twitter conversations and content that like other podcasts and stuff and kind of see what everyone's talking about. And I also look, if you go to FabTCG's website, you can look at their if it's during a ProQuest season or post a ProQuest season, you can see what's doing well in ProQuest seasons. You can look at what's been doing well at callings and other big events or road to nationals or whatever events are going on. And they do a very good job on the main website of posting like breakdowns of what's been doing well at events. So looking at those and checking in on those and then trying to follow some of the discussion going on in public places. That is, in my opinion, the best way to see what people will probably bring to the tournament.
That makes sense. So basically what you're saying, if you're not going to be playing a deck that's good into an expected metagame, don't show up. So never bring Rhinar or Azalea or anything like that.
So when you bring what I would call like a hero that is not particularly good into some of the more popular heroes, I think that is reasonable to do. But you either need to adjust your plan to have a fighting chance into those matchups, or be pretty good into basically everything else if you're gonna essentially forfeit that matchup. So a good example of this was me and several of the Wolfpack guys took Oldheim to Pro Tour 2 in Lille, and we were all on the Dodge Prism plan because the Prism matchup was basically unwinnable, and we knew Prism would be some percentage of the metagame, somewhere between.
Because I was playing Prism in that tournament.
We kind of like.
It wound up being a really good choice for the deck for that tournament. There was like 4 Prisms in the top 8 or something like that, right?
I think there were
3 or 4.
I think there were 2 Prisms, 4 Briars, and some other stuff. And then Prism got 9th and 10th also, though. So all the tiebreakers.
Poor Marco Fang. Right? He bubbled, right?
Yeah, Michael Fang got 10th.
Yeah. Poor guy.
Mm-hmm. That was right before he joined the Wolfpack.
Mm-hmm. Had he joined the Wolfpack, he would have easily won the tournament.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. So with the metagame expectations, so what do you do though? Like, can you ever really be confident in like a metagame though? Because I feel like in Flesh and Blood, every time I have an expectation for like a metagame, there's always some weird curveball that winds up happening as far as like what people actually bring. And I think in Indianapolis, the weird curveball was that I think Dorinthia was like in the top 4 or 5 registered decks for the tournament. And like, I think it was like close to like 20, like it was between 10 and 20% of the field, right? Somewhere in that range. That's like a lot of Dorinthia. So like, if all of a sudden like you're planning to play against, you know, Briar, Oldhams, and Icelanders, and then round 1 you play against a Dorinthia, you're like, oh, well, I didn't plan for any of this. Like, how do you adjust to that then?
Yeah, so the good news is most of the time that a hero that hasn't really been part of the meta before is that large of the field, they aren't usually going to do as well as like some of the more established heroes, because unless there's like some build that got out that's like actually a really good way to build the hero, it's hard for 10 to 20% of the field to take a hero that's not really being played and come up with a good version of it, basically. A version of it.
I thought you were going to say the good news is Dorinthia sucks. That's where you were going.
That's not far from what I was saying. I think so. Like, I don't think it's that necessarily that Dorinthia is garbage or unplayable, but like we haven't seen Dorinthia put up a lot of results in the past, and we still haven't seen that. And that basically means that the current ways Dorinthia is being built are not good enough, right?
Yeah, sure.
And maybe there's no ways that are good enough to build Dorinthia to have good results, but it's possible there's something out there. But even if there is something out there, 10 to 20% of the field is not all going to find it at the same time, unless there was like something big that happened that you missed. Like, I think early on in Starvo season, when I can't remember who it was that went like 9-0 or 10-0 in a tournament with like all element Starvo with Winter's Well and Stalagmite, and they were just fusing everything. But someone went like basically 9-0 or 10-0 with the deck, and then the deck kind of broke out after that. And I think that would be like an example of like a deck that you aren't ready for that is actually very good and like everyone has access to the build. But that would be like something that you would probably pick up if you looked at recent tournament results and followed some of the discussions going on Twitter or Reddit or wherever people talk about those things, the public discords.
Okay. But, and then I guess the last thing I'll say about metagames, though, is the day before the tournament, we put up our podcast and we were just like, yeah, we're playing Icelander. We think Icelander is good. This is like the last slots we're going to put into our Icelander deck. Here's what we're doing. And nobody pivoted to Icelander or to like anti-Icelander. I feel like Dromai didn't become the second most registered deck because of our podcast. So, like, how much of a fact do you think we have on the metagame?
I think Dromai was the second most registered deck.
Was it? No way. People can't be that crazy. I need to look at this.
I think it was Briar than Dromai. Am I wrong? There were like 50 Dromai's or something.
We're looking this up in real time. Here we go, baby.
That's really funny that was your example.
Dromai was the second most registered. Oh my goodness. What? People are crazy. Dromai is not playable. Wow.
So, again, when a deck that you, like I was saying,
people really wanted to beat Michael Hamilton, I guess.
I played against 0 Dromai, so it was a good weekend.
Yeah, lucky you, buddy.
When a deck that like hasn't really put up results is such a big part of the metagame, usually it doesn't do well unless something recent happened that like there's some new broken build of it that's like very public. And like after I don't want to pronounce his name wrong, but it's like Fuad Omar, I think. The Dromai that top 8 Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
I think his build was like pretty good. And I guess obviously he did really well in the tournament. So I think it would be reasonable for a lot of people to pick up like that version of the deck and play that and do really well. But it's also I don't know. I feel like the metagame just like shifts slowly, and like the decks that are winning don't change quickly over time.
Her conversion rate was atrocious too. It was like 15 or 8 Dromais in day 2. Mm-hmm. Not as bad as Bravo's, which is like, it's really funny that Bravo converted horribly and then he won the Battle Hardened in Europe. It's like, was this guy playable or not? I don't understand.
Yeah, one Bravo out of 42 made day 2, and that Bravo did not top 32, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah.
So, not a good showing for Bravo. We kind of look silly saying Bravo might be better than Oldheim, but then he won the Battle Hardened, so, you know.
Yeah, so, like, who knows?
Something.
Maybe just European people know how to play Bravo, and we're just missing something. Our puny American minds can't process the masculinity of Boomer Bravo.
Yep. So, once you have an idea of like the kind of decks that you're going to run into at the tournament, you want to make sure you get some playtesting in against those decks. Right?
That seems reasonable, yeah.
So, it's one thing to be like, yeah, I know Briar is going to be popular, so I'm going to play Icelander. Well, that's great and all, but if you haven't actually got reps with Icelander into Briar, you're probably still going to struggle into the matchup. Like, whatever matchup you're targeting, you still need to practice, and you want to practice against it a lot. I would say whatever you think is the most popular deck should probably be the deck that you spend most time practicing against.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And then as far as anything else about like the game itself for prep for tournaments, anything else you want to talk about?
So I guess this is kind of about the game, kind of not. It's kind of like blurry or on the line, but like whatever you're registering for your deck, make sure you have the cards for it, or you have ways to get the cards. Like if you're borrowing stuff, make sure you have all that lined up before you start traveling, before the weekend of the tournament. Otherwise, or if you're just like comfortable just buying cards from dealers, which can be kind of pricey, but it like also very convenient, just be ready, and that should be your plan, I guess. Not like, oh shoot, I don't have this card. I didn't have any way to get it, so I guess I'm gonna shell out $100 something for this legendary that I have at home or something. Make sure you like bring everything you might want.
So bring your entire collection to tournament halls. Got it. Okay. No, that's not what you're saying.
No. And then just if you're like playing Bolton, maybe bring
You have me. I'm interested.
your legendary Valiant Dynamo, even if you're planning to not play it. If you think you might switch to putting Valiant Dynamo in your deck for some reason, I don't know. Maybe make sure you pack it.
Or if you're bringing Bolton, also bring Courage of Bladehold if you're planning on playing Courage of Bladehold in your deck.
Or Raiden.
Or Raiden if you're planning on playing Raiden in your deck. Thank God I didn't forget like Tunic. So at the last ProQuest I played in, I get to the tournament. I sit down for my round one, and I look in my deck box, and I'm missing a Courage, a Bladehold, and a Raiden, and I have to scramble around the room, be like, "Can anybody let me borrow these cards?" And the shop itself, Cards and All, I love you, Cards and All, let me borrow their Courage of Bladehold for the day. They were just, I was like, "I'll buy this," and they're like, "No, just borrow it." It's like, you're Roger Bodee. We think Roger Bodee from the MNR podcast is going to steal from us? No way. There's no way he would do that. And I didn't steal from them, so they were right. So.
I'm glad you didn't steal from them. That would be pretty bad for
yeah. So if you're on a really popular podcast, you don't necessarily have to remember all your cards because your clout will just carry you. Michael experiences it all the time. People just throw cards at him most of the time.
What?
That's not something that happens.
No. Well, maybe for signing them, but not for freaking borrowing them.
Or after you win the tournament, people just hand you gold foils all the time, right?
One gold foil.
No. I just assumed you were just tripping over them at this point in time.
I do have a few, but anyway. the last kind of like supply for the tournament is sleeves. In general, like I guess sleeves is something we could probably talk about for a little while, because like sleeves and also making sure you don't have marked cards. So like if you've been using your sleeves on your deck for a while, they are probably going to be beat up a little bit, and you probably want to replace them for a tournament, especially if it's like a battle hardened or a calling, something bigger. You should have fresh, clean sleeves.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you can get game losses if your sleeves have like dirt or are not good quality. If a judge checks your deck and they're like, these are now marked cards, you are going to get a game loss. And that's going to lead me into like the next thing I always do before a tournament is I will go up to a member of the judging staff or the head judge or I just go to the judge table and I'm like, hey, I have at least one foil in my deck. Could somebody please check out my deck to make sure that none of my foils are considered to be marked cards? And they look through my deck, they manipulate it, they do whatever they want, and I have not had an issue yet with having foil cards in my deck. My Icelander deck is like 95% foil. I think the only things that aren't foil is like the Command and Conquerors and Enlightened Strikes at this point, because they're Command and Conquerors and Enlightened Strikes. So definitely if you have like any foils in your deck, though, I think it's just well worth it to just have a judge check out your deck before the event. Because I guess my plan would always be then at that point in time, if like I get to a deck check situation later on in the tournament and they do have a problem with the foils, I could at least say, well, I checked with Judge so and so before the event. They cleared my deck. They could go check with them and be like, oh, okay, well, maybe I won't get penalized or something like that. I don't know if that's going to 100% the way that works out, but I just feel better playing in the event knowing that I did my due diligence beforehand, and it's something I highly recommend for anybody doing who has foils in their deck, unless your deck is 100% foils. But that's then you have less problems to deal with, I guess, anyways.
Yeah, and even if your deck is 100% foils, you could still get some foils that end up pretty warped, and you can still end up cutting to them even in an all foil deck, because they don't always warp the same. One card can just be like a little warp because it's foil. And non-foil cards,
Sloop Dupe actually. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say non-foil cards can also be warped too, but that's usually like if you shuffle hard and like you like accidentally flick the card or something and it gets bent, that can also lead to marked cards. So like it's something that you want to be aware of even after like the first round of the tournament. If you like hit a card kind of hard when you're shuffling, sometimes that can lead to a marked card. And I actually had a tournament situation. This was in Magic, not Flesh and Blood, but in our team tournament, I flicked one of my cards really hard when I was shuffling, and then later in the next round, I noticed a weird lump in my deck, and I called a judge over, and I'm like, "Hey, I think I accidentally marked my card when I was shuffling," and it was the last round of the tournament. I had to go buy a like $8 replacement.
Okay. Uh, and then I was gonna say Sloop Dupe has a good YouTube video that talks about how to like uncurl your foils and stuff like that. And I've used some of those techniques um, because like the fables and stuff like that, like they just only come in foil. So I think Michael had a cracked bobble proxy, but I just take good care of my cards, so I don't need to do that. And
Okay.
yeah, there are ways to like uncurl your foils, because basically like the curling process, as my uh tiny brain understands it, is that basically there's two layers to the card. There's the cardboard layer and then there's the foil layer, and basically over time the cardboard aspect of it will pick up like moisture from the atmosphere, but that doesn't absorb into like the sticker foil part, and that's what causes the curling. Is that the sticker foil part's the same like density and length, and then the cardboard has expanded, and so it kind of warps around the foil. So all you need to do is like remove that like moisture out of the card and keep it in like low humidity environments, and your card should be fine. So but he has a good video. He explains it much better than I do. And yeah, check him out.
You
It's a
said
good video.
it's his name's Sloop Dupe.
Yeah. SLOOPDOOP.
Okay. I'm gonna put a note to include a link in that in the description. So you'll be able to find a link to this video in the description. The last thing is about sleeves and mark cards is once you've sat down with a judge and had them do it, you can kind of see the process that they do to check your cards. And then you can kind of replicate that on your own and kind of like maybe you got approved at the start of the tournament, but you like flicked one of your cards and you're like, is it marked now? You can kind of do it on your own. Or you can always, it's always a good idea to check with the judge if you're not sure, but you can sometimes just check on your own too.
Now is the time to move on to the non-flesh and blood aspects of tournament prep.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think for this, we kind of want to talk about like traveling, both flights and hotels, eating well, getting enough sleep, all that kind of stuff. Things that are important to do to play your best in a tournament, but aren't
Yeah.
flesh blood
So
related.
first thing you want to do is you're going to gotta find a good drug dealer to get your hands on some kind of either amphetamine or cocaine, because it's really going to help you stay boosted and highlighted through the whole tournament. It's a long day. You're going to get tired, but you know the use of drugs and performance enhancing supplements is something that Michael has used to great success so far. But I'll let him get
What?
into more details on that. Take it away, Michael.
No drugs. Drugs are bad.
Okay.
So I guess the first thing is, oh, one other thing that we probably should talk about is making sure you're registered on time. But that's fine. People register for the tournament. So
And ahead of time. So let's talk about that real quick.
okay.
So there have been numerous instances in card game history where people are like, "Oh, it's the day before the tournament. I should probably register." And then they go to register for the tournament. They're there. They've traveled, and then lo and behold, the open tournament for the weekend, it's full. You can't register for it anymore. If you are planning on going to a tournament, book your ticket and registration in advance. Just do it. So like it takes no time. Like it's insane to me. Like that people will like do literal everything else for the tournament, like book hotels and flights and travel arrangements and buy cards and buy sleeves and waste. Or at that point, they'll have wasted so much of their time as well. But they didn't register for the tournament. Register for the tournament as soon as you commit to going. Just do that. If you're planning on going to the 5K in Chicago at the end of March, register for it. There's an early bird special for it. I just registered for it today. I just paid my $55, and I could go, and I know I'm going to go play in that 5K, and it's great. And then if I decide, the day before I get sick and I can't go, they'll refund you. They will be like, "Oh, okay, here's a refund for the event you didn't play it, and you're fine." So there's no reason not to. There's literal no downside to doing it, and there's a lot of risk and downside to not doing it. That's my little register PSA.
Yeah, Have definitely been known to register a little late for things. I think Indianapolis, it was the day before, and I'm like, "I don't think I registered for the tournament. I'm gonna do that."
Lucky you that it didn't fill up.
Yeah, so but what you were saying about, registering when you book your travel plans, I generally do that, but there was no traveling involved for Indianapolis, so I just forgot to register, basically.
Fair enough.
Um, but yeah, I will definitely register for the 5K shortly after this. Um,
Sounds great.
yeah, okay. So, speaking on travel, I recently learned that if you book flights with points, you can save quite a bit of money.
What kind of points?
So,
Brownie points with your wife and then she pays, or?
no, no, uh, travel reward points from like credit card bonuses.
Ah. Yeah, the only thing that comes with that though is like not all flights are available all the time with it, and some of the windows can be pretty restricted. So your flight miles may vary, I guess, in this instance. But if you have the option available to you, sure, it makes a lot of sense to do it that way.
Yeah, definitely start looking at flights once you're locked in. Usually, like flights are cheaper a month to 2 months out than they are if you book them like a week or two away.
Yeah. It's crazy that flights are like the thing that gets more expensive the closer it gets to, because like an airline would rather have like empty seats on a plane than like lower their prices, which is like crazy to me.
Yeah, I don't really understand why it works the way it does because you'd think like some flights that were like filling up, their prices would go up, and then the other flights that are like having empty seats, their prices should go down, right? Because they really want to fill up the flight. But I feel like that's not how it's worked in my experience.
Nope. It's I think the way that the airlines look at it is that if people are looking to travel right now, then it's an emergency and you're willing to pay any price for that ticket. So they're like, "Oh, if you're desperate to travel right this second, you got to pay up, buddy." So that's I think that's how they view it, but I don't know.
Yeah,
Such is life.
that makes sense. So when would you recommend getting in when you're flying to a tournament?
Sometime before the tournament.
Thank you, thank you.
Not the morning of. So I did that for Orlando, and that was quite the stressful morning, that's for sure, because my flight was delayed like an hour. And then I remember running to the tournament hall with like 5 minutes before the tournament and like trying to figure out like and like directing my Uber because I didn't know where exactly the tournament hall was. Very stressful. Don't fly in morning of, fly in the day before. It's well worth it.
Yeah. You can usually be like a little more selective about what flight you take, get a better deal because you're flying on not a Saturday. Saturday flights are usually kind of expensive, though. You do have to pay for lodging one night, but you get in, you can play side events on Friday if you get there early enough. You can just rest and do all this other stuff that we talked about, like getting your deck list ready, resleeving, checking your cards. Um, and you get a good night's sleep too if you get in the day before. So
In theory.
you at least have the opportunity to get a good night's sleep. If you're getting in at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m., then you're going to be up in the middle of the night getting ready for your flight and not be rested at all for the tournament.
Oh, I was just saying that like pre-tournament jitters are real, and like sleeping in hotels suck. So it's like I don't know if anybody really sleeps like super well before tournaments if like they're super excited for them. I know like it's hard for you to get excited for things anymore. It's just like old routine. Like I'm just gonna go win another calling. It's just it's like monotonous for you. But a lot of other players, there's a lot of pre-tournament jitters involved.
I still get pre-tournament jitters,
If you say so.
but I will say for Indianapolis, I slept well, but I was at home, so that helps with sleeping well.
Mhm, mhm.
But like, even if you're like having trouble sleeping, I found that when I am traveling a lot shortly before an event, I still feel like a lot worse than I do if I'm just like laying in bed nervous, unable to sleep the night before.
I think there was a MythBusters episode. Don't quote me on this. Look, do your own research on this. But I believe that they tested that laying in bed with your eyes closed is basically almost as good as actually getting to sleep itself. So, like, if you can just force yourself to like rest and close your eyes and just like even if you're just like conscious, if you're just like thinking about stuff, I think they showed like that's almost as good as like getting like real sleep in it. It's definitely better than like getting up and like scrolling on your phone or playing whatever game in the middle of the night. So I try that,
Huh.
I guess.
That I haven't seen this Mythbusters episode, but that does sound like it matches with my anecdotal experiences of laying there with my eyes closed, thinking about tournament stuff.
Yeah, counting the money. $1 bill. $2.
No, freaking for Indianapolis, Friday night I slept great. Saturday night, I was awake in the middle of the night, just like, how do I beat fatigue Oldheim? How do I beat fatigue Oldheim? Just thinking about it. And I just laid in bed with my eyes closed, thinking about fatigue Oldheim. And then I had a
Okay.
plan and I got beat up in Swiss. And then I revised my plan and it worked much better. And so the other option for travel is kind of driving. And I know we've definitely driven to some events the morning of.
Yeah, if it's like a 2-hour drive, I don't mind. 2 to 3 hours. Anything past that, I'm too old for that now.
That's fair. I think like when you're driving, it's you don't have to get up nearly as early if you're flying. Like a 2-hour drive versus a 2-hour flight, you get like 2 extra hours of sleep with a 2-hour drive because like you don't have to go to the airport. You don't have to be at the airport like an hour and a half before your flight actually leaves. And then you don't have to figure out transportation from the airport to the venue once you land. So it saves like a 2-hour drive to a tournament is at least 2 hours faster than a 2-hour flight to a tournament.
Yeah, and if you want to go full degenerate, if you drive to a tournament like Roger did in his 20s, you also don't need to book a hotel at that point. Just sleep in your car, and then two birds, one stone.
Right, like the Saturday night for a 2-day tournament? So,
Mhm. I did that plenty of times in my 20s.
really?
I was very poor in my 20s. Yeah, in Washington D.C. for the Grand Prix. The hotels in Washington D.C. were like $300 a night. Like it was like insane, and but like parking was $20 a night in the parking garage. So I just slept in the backseat of my car, and I had a grand old time.
Hmm. I guess like one of the other benefits of driving is you're not really restricted to sleeping near the tournament. You can get a hotel that's like 20 to 30 minutes away from the venue and save quite a bit of money that way if you're able to find like a more reasonably priced one, a short drive away
Yeah,
or a
and
medium drive away.
at this point in my life, this is going to be a Roger Bodee travel tip. If you can afford it, just stay within like a 5 to 10 minute walk of the convention center, and just like walk. Like it's always nice to get that little brisk like morning exercise on your way to the tournament hall. You don't have to worry about like paying for parking or an Uber or the commute. You get to sleep in a little bit more. There's usually some good restaurants or coffee places or drug dealers around in the morning.
Drug dealers. No, drugs are bad.
And you'll just have a much easier time of the day. And so I think it's worth the peace of mind, at least for me now, to just stay pretty close. And especially if you're going to travel with Michael, don't let him book you in shady murder alley, $20 a night hotel. I did that a couple of times in my 20s, and not anymore.
Saved a lot of
Past that
money. Nobody got murdered.
that we know of.
Nobody got murdered.
You didn't bring bed bugs home.
Correct. Yeah. We did not.
Okay.
Everything was fine. So, if you're looking to save money, you can find some lower quality hotels a little bit further away and save quite a bit of money that way. I guess the other tip for saving money and also, in my opinion, make the trip more enjoyable is if you could get a group to carpool with you down to a tournament. If you're driving,
Yeah, travel with a good friend of yours.
yeah, that's part of how we got close. I guess is just like, I guess this was after you moved here, but like, I feel like driving to tournaments together, we got a lot of nice conversations.
Yeah, we still traveled together for a couple tournaments before I moved here, right?
We,
We at least stayed hotels
yeah, we
together.
shared hotels.
Yeah, I don't think we ever drove together though before
It
that.
would be
That
hard to
makes sense.
carpool when we're a 5-hour drive apart.
Yeah, yeah. Then how did we drive a car? Was it after I moved to Indianapolis? You tried to murder me with a
No,
semi?
no, because we were staying somewhere all together, and we were just driving to the tournament, and we got breakfast on the way.
That's what I thought. I thought that was pre me moving here
Yeah,
because that feels like an older memory.
yeah, I'm a great driver now.
That's good. I'm glad you've matured.
I'm I am at least slightly above average, and that's good enough.
Yeah, I mean everybody thinks they're above average driver, but 50% of those people are wrong. So I mean,
I mean, maybe I'm slightly below average. I don't know. I think I'm slightly above average, and that's good enough for me.
What gives you the advantage now is that like the Ferrari at least gives you the speed to like at least
I
outmaneuver,
don't have a
the other cars.
Ferrari. I got a Toyota Corolla, and it's a great car. It's real nice.
Sure, buddy.
It's got like the lane thing that like keeps you in your lane, in case you're like falling asleep behind. No, it's just nice.
I fell asleep behind the wheel of a car one time.
Really?
That was not a fun experience. Yeah.
Did you crash?
Mhm.
Hmm.
But what's nice when you crash when you're sleeping is your body's perfectly relaxed. So it's really hard to injure yourself unless you're just less likely to injure yourself. So I was fine. Like the car was totaled, but I was fine. My body just literally rolled with it.
Don't fall asleep on your way to a tournament. Get as much sleep as possible.
Yeah, it's not good equity. That was on the way to a tournament though. That was very younger and very much more degenerate Roger kind of activities were happening back then.
Okay. So we talked about travel, talked about rest. What about food? Food around a tournament. Do you eat during a tournament?
No, but I'm a crazy person. I actively will like not eat anymore during a tournament. Like I drink lots of water. Drink lots of water during a tournament. But I don't know. I just feel like the hunger keeps like as long as hunger is not like a distracting motivated, like if like you're in the middle of a match and you can't think because you're like, oh, I'm hungry. Don't do that. But for me, I don't have to worry about like feeling like overly full or bloated or like my blood sugar spiking or dipping unexpectedly because I ate something or something carby like that or like and most food that's around a tournament hall is like just shit quality. Like it's not like if like there was like a fruit and vegetable stand selling fresh organic like celery sticks and carrots and stuff like that, maybe I would eat like something light during a tournament. But like I'm not gonna go and fucking eat like French fries and cheese and just feel like shit for my next 2 rounds at that point. Like I that's why I choose not to eat during a tournament. Like maybe I'll bring like a small snack, but even now most of the time I'm just like just lots of water, just drink a lot of water and then have a really good dinner at night.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I generally eat the garbage food that is available at the tournaments because I'm like, I usually eat as a pretty big breakfast, and then I'm usually good for most of the tournament, and then like later in the day at some point I want to eat a little bit more, so I'm like, just like, all right for the last few rounds, and I usually don't get something too big at the tournament hall, but something small to tie me over, and then I also do a big dinner, so I have like 2 big meals and then like a small snack usually in the middle of the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm just not a big breakfast person. Like I'm just not that hungry in the morning. Just for whatever reason, I can eat like medium sized breakfast, but like it's just not. I don't want to feel like overly full to start my day. I guess that's just not. I'm not about that life.
I like it. I feel like it gives you fuel for most of the day.
I mean, you have fuel for the rest of the day in your coffee.
I don't drink coffee.
Well, there you go. If you drink coffee, you wouldn't need to eat food.
It
Confirmed.
doesn't sound healthy. Skipping breakfast and using coffee instead. I'm not a health expert, but that doesn't sound good.
It's interesting that because like the older I got, the more evidence has come out that like skipping breakfast is actually like a legitimate form of like dieting and weight loss and like it's like intermittent fasting. I don't know if you've heard of that,
I have.
where you only eat for 8 hour windows of the day. So that means you eat from like 11 a.m. to like 7 p.m. is usually like what I'm going for now. That's kind of what I'm just doing. But like, but yeah, so like skipping breakfast is fine as long as like you have a consistent meal strategy and stuff like that.
Okay. If you have a good strategy that you've done some research on, you can skip breakfast. But I think you should have breakfast because breakfast is good.
Do whatever works for you. Know yourself,
Yeah.
There's no one size fits all as far as like eating and energy management. That's why if there was, everybody would just do that.
That's fair. And that's something that like I guess you just kind of have to go through some tournaments to figure out what works best for you. But like
You don't have to go through tournaments. You just have to like know how to eat food beforehand.
it's like a different environment though. But I don't know. I guess like figure out what works for you. Once you figure it out, you're good.
Do that.
Yeah, do that.
Good advice.
That's
Glad we made this podcast.
real helpful. Figure out what works and do it.
Good things are good. Confirm. Any other hot tips over there, champ?
I think I'm stuck. I think I'm just good. Good things are good.
Have I off-railed this episode hard enough yet?
Eh, that's fair.
I could have been worse. I behaved myself a little bit, at least. We're like 40 minutes in now. Nobody's even watching to this point anymore.
I want to talk
Anyways, we
about
could.
outsider cards since nobody's watching at this point.
We got to. We can talk about our fun outsider spoiler situation. So, 'twas the day that everybody was receiving exciting emails from Legendary Story Studios. I don't even
Legend
know the
Story
name of this company. No wonder
Studios.
why they don't want to give us anything. Uh, anyways, and everybody was so excited, like, oh, I got the email. I put my googly eyes on Twitter. I think that was like the code that people were doing. I think I picked up on that or something like that. People just put like Google eyes as like at a tweet or something like that to confirm that they got an email from. I don't
LSS.
know. We didn't get any emails that day, and I was very sad. And I was like, "Oh no, we don't get a spoiler card. It's sad. Oh well, it's not a big deal. There's a lot of content creators out there. Not everybody has the world champion on their podcast, so they probably need the extra publicity anyways. It's no big deal." Lo and behold, the day after,
So rude.
we get an email, and LSS is like, "Oh, sorry, we didn't know which email to email you guys because when I first registered a content creator account, I did it under my personal email because I didn't know if we would even keep doing this crazy thing past a couple weeks at that point in time. But here we are, and now we have an official email, so we switched it over to that. And I don't know what our card is, but we're getting one.
They mail it to you, right?
Yeah, we have a UPS tracking number that has not changed. They want us to spoil it the week of March 4th. So
Okay.
I think we'll have to make a YouTube short for that. And I
Sweet.
have a good joke lined up on it. Don't ruin my joke. You know the joke, but don't say the joke. I have an amazing joke lined up for it.
But we don't even know the card yet.
It's fine.
The joke's not related to the card that we're spoiling?
No.
Okay.
It's just a really good way to spoil the card.
Okay.
And people are gonna love it. It's gonna go viral, man.
I'm excited for our spoiler video to go viral.
Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, aside from that, we really haven't. I guess there were the spoilers in Indianapolis, but like the quiver, who cares?
I didn't realize how that worked. There was like each vendor got a spoiler, is that right?
Not
Or
each vendor.
some of the vendors got spoilers?
I think two vendors got spoilers. I think MinMax and Realm got spoilers, and then Mark Poole, the artist, had a spoiler.
Okay.
He does a bunch of art for Flesh and Blood.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that was going on. I feel like I missed out.
Yeah, you were too busy winning. Yeah, none of the spoilers seem super amazing. And then they came out with the article yesterday about what stealth does. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I'm kind of disappointed, honestly.
It doesn't do any. It's like an aim counter, or other cards will care about the thing having stealth, but the stealth doesn't do anything intrinsically, which is like weird.
Yeah, it's just like an attribute with no rules text in itself. So like things care about it, but it doesn't actually do anything. So I'm assuming.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say I'm assuming the new hero, the new assassin, is gonna have something specifically about stealth on her hero ability.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is that like her thing will be like your stealth cards are super stealthy and can only be stealthed by stealth means. So something like that.
Okay.
Really simple and intuitive for people to understand.
Can only be stealthed by stealthenings. Stealth things. What were you gonna say though?
That I was gonna say, yeah,
okay.
the Usury probably has something to do with stealth cards. So,
Okay. Cool.
but that means Arachne is not getting any love, which is sad.
Well, aren't we getting a new version of Arachne?
Is that confirmed?
I thought so. Maybe that's not confirmed. I don't know. I guess we'll see when the set comes out. I thought we were for some reason, but
Yeah, but we're not getting a new adult Arachne, right? That's not happening. If we do get a new Arachne, it'll be a new young Arachne for limited purposes.
I don't know. That would be weird to have 2 new adult assassins.
I guess we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah.
I got a sick trade on Black Tech Whispers last night at the Armory.
Ooh, I need a Black Tech Whispers.
Yeah, it's like $100 card. It was the only legendary in the game I didn't own, and I traded a couple promos and a Coronet Peak. And Coronet Peak's like $20.
All the Uprising legendaries are very cheap because
except for Crown of Providence.
Oh, yeah. So that's part of why. And then it was the first set with the new like no first edition unlimited edition and then it just has a higher legendary drop rate than older sets because between rainbow foils and cold foils it's just slightly more legendaries than unlimited or first edition of other products had.
Yeah. But some of the promos in this game are like wild. Did you got a cold foil Fi, right? For I think Road to National Season's top dates? Do you still have that? It's worth $200.
I think I still have it. Isn't it? It's Young Fi, right?
Yeah. No, it's Adult Fi.
Oh. I don't know. It's not in my room somewhere. So
yeah, I wish I would have known it was worth $200. I would have just sold it a couple of weeks ago, in Indianapolis. But
okay, so we also got. I guess the last thing is we also learned what all the token things do that the cards make. Like we learned what frailty tokens do and stuff. So it'll be fun to see how those play. I think the new codex is going to be broken. We already said that, but it seems good.
Sure. I think inertia seems very good, but I don't know.
What does inertia do again?
Your opponent doesn't get an arsenal, basically. It's the same thing as
Seek and Destroy, but it puts it on the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll be powerful. But you get against Icelander.
It'll be good against any hero that'll be good against the old time. It'll be good against any hero that wants an arsenal, which is like almost everybody.
Yeah, and it's nice to have like I kind of like this take on arsenal destruction better than like Command and Conquer, where like it's like, hey, figure out how to spend your arsenal this turn because you're not going to get to keep it, rather than, hey, I'm going to kill an extra card to get a full point of value or a full card of value.
Yeah. Especially for like Rangers consideration. Like they already have a hard enough time not getting fatigued to begin with. So like throw them a bone. At least put it at the bottom of their deck instead of putting more cards in their graveyard.
Yeah, and like when you have the inertia token, I'm assuming you're not going to get it after you've spent your action point on your turn. I assume you're going to get it on your opponent's turn. Though I guess Riptide might give you an inertia token with a trap. But like for the most part, it's going to be like, you need to figure out how to spend your arsenal because you have the inertia token on their turn.
Yeah.
Which is cool. I like that better. Or like that form of interaction because like you have room to play around it, but it's still like really poet and countering like set of decks or decks that are trying to sit on a specific card in arsenal.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. I'm ready to call it there. Anything else you want to add or talk about?
No, I think I'm good. I wasn't excited for this episode, but we got through it. It wasn't as painful as I thought it would be. I had a good time just talking to my friend Michael Hamilton.
Yeah.
So yeah. Next week's will be good. Next week we're going to do underrated and overrated cards, right? Spoilers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So look forward to that, everybody.
See y'all next week.
And the next time you are playing Flesh and Blood, always remember to mind your manners.